Good morning, RTA Connect. Are we excited? Woohoo! You should at least be excited for the next 45 to 60 minutes. If for no other reason, I've seen your agenda. Things like paperless shop, something called Gas Boy, data management, tracking. I mean, if I were you, I'd be a little overwhelmed by that agenda. And so for the next hour, I want to follow your CEO and be your CFO, your Chief Fun Officer. How many of you want to have fun over the next hour? Awesome. So quick question. Rumor has it that in your packet, in your name badge this morning, you've got a ticket to Epcot tonight? Is that true? Yay! If you're not excited about going to Disney World, I don't know how to help you this morning. How many of you, this will be your first visit to Epcot? Oh, wow. How many of you, your first visit to Walt Disney World? A few fewer hands. How many of you, anyone, tonight will be your first visit to a Disney park, period? Love it. That is amazing. Well, I want to start with my story. Because RTA Connect, it's been more than 30 years since I walked into Disneyland. Oh, there we go. We're going to have a long hour if I have to hit this 5 times every time I want to change a slide. It's been more than 30 years since I walked into Disneyland for the first time. And I hated it. And now here I am, some 3 decades later, teaching that college class, giving these kinds of professional presentations, and writing books on my favorite place, anywhere in the world, Disneyland. So what changed? Well, I can tell you this, not the park. You see, what I hated about Disneyland in August 1988 is that the park was too hot. The park was too crowded. We waited and waited and waited. We waited more than 3 hours for our first Disneyland ride. And in 2019, if you go to a Disney park, especially in August, let me assure you, it'll still be too hot. It'll still be too crowded. Check the Walt Disney World app this morning. We can still wait more than 3 hours for our favorite Disney park attractions. No, it's not the park that changed. I changed. You see, when I first walked into Disneyland, I knew nothing about Walt Disney, nearly nothing about his original Magic Kingdom. And so I got curious. And in that curiosity, I discovered Walt Disney. He was the hero in his story. He built Disneyland for a purpose, for the purpose of telling stories, stories that I now know are challenging you and challenging me to go out and live our own great story. And RTA Connect, that's why I'm here this morning. Yes, we're going to have fun over the next 45 minutes talking about Walt Disney, Disneyland, and Walt Disney World. But more importantly, I want to use our time together to challenge you. Challenge you to step up. Challenge you to be the hero in what you do with your customers, with your clients, with your community each and every day. We're going to start by talking about making not just a decision, but the decision. The decision to go all in on your goals, all in on your dreams, all in on your success. And then we're going to cover the 5 life-changing choices you must make if you want to turn those dreams into reality. We've got a busy morning, so let's get started. It's been more than 50 years since Walt Disney died. And what we remember are all of his successes. But what I fear is that we have forgotten Walt Disney's failures. And so that's where we're going to start this morning. I want you to raise your hand if you have ever failed. Awesome! I'm in a hotel room next to Walt Disney World, in a room filled with Walt Disneys. Right now, you're looking at Walt's first studio. This is Laugh-O-Gram Studio, way out in Kansas City, Missouri. And it was here that he worked with a local dentist, creating animation advertisements teaching children how to brush their teeth. But after only 18 months, Laugh-O-Gram Studio and Walt Disney, they're bankrupt. But it's the bankruptcy. It is that financial failure that compels him to California. What did Walt do? Walt boarded a train. He boarded a train with $40, a single suitcase, and a one-way ticket. He joined forces with his older brother Roy, who was already out in Los Angeles, and together they founded the Disney Brothers Studio that today is the largest entertainment company anywhere in the world. But what if? What if Walt Disney never goes bankrupt? Then maybe, just maybe, he spends the rest of his life in Kansas City. And the rest of his career only ever working with a local dentist. RTA Connect, this morning, I want you to use your imagination for just a moment and imagine you're Walt Disney. It's 1923. You're 21 years old, but already bankrupt, already financially ruined. You have a decision to make. You can stay in Kansas City. You can stay in Kansas City where it is safe, where it is comfortable, where you have friends, where you have family, and where you can give up. Or you can go all in on your dream. $40, a single suitcase, and a one-way ticket. What will you decide? You see, my friends, your story, your success doesn't hinge on current circumstances. No, your story, your success hinges on the decisions, the choices that you make each and every day. What will you decide? Well, now that Walt is in California, he's going to create his first successful cartoon character. And you all know him by the name of? Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. And by 1928, Oswald is so successful that Walt and now his wife Lily, they're boarding another train. They're headed to New York City. Walt wants to sit down with his distributor, Universal, and like all of us, he's looking for a bigger and better contract. But in that meeting, Walt learned when he signed the distribution deal, well, he had signed away the rights to Oswald as well. And while he and Lily were busy in New York City, Universal was busy in Southern California, hiring away the very animators who had helped make Oswald so successful. Walt didn't walk out of that meeting with a bigger and better contract. No, he walked out with nothing. He is staring bankruptcy in the face all over again. But on the train ride home, he remembered a little character who had kept him company during those dark days in Kansas City. Walt pulled out a pad of paper, sketched out the first story, showed it to his wife Lily. Honey, what do you think of this guy? Why, Walt, he's cute. What are you going to name him? Well, I'm thinking of naming him Mortimer. Mortimer? Oh, no, Walt, that name is much too heavy. Why don't you go with Mickey instead. And so it was in that moment of desperation, that the world's most popular and profitable cartoon character was born. But again, what if? What if Walt Disney never loses Oswald the not-so-lucky rabbit? Then he never has a need for Mickey Mouse. Walt once said, we can never forget, it all started with a mouse. But a mouse born out of desperation. And guess what? We have all been there. We've all failed. We have all faced desperate moments and desperate situations. And this morning, if you feel stuck, this morning, if you know what you want, but you don't know how to get there, I want you to know you don't have to stay stuck. No one has to stay in Kansas City, because it is never too late. It's never too late to board the train. Never too late to go all in on your goals, your dreams, your success. It's never too late to go all in. $40, a single suitcase, and a one-way ticket. And once you make that decision, well, then you know, regardless of what happens, just like Walt Disney, it doesn't matter, because you're constantly going to be making the choice, our first choice, to keep moving forward. One of my favorite conversations is to ask audiences about their favorite Disney park attractions. Today, we're going to count down the top 3. I want you to shout, cheer, when you hear yours. Number 3, wait for it, men. It's a Small World. We're still waiting for it. I'm going to meet Josh outside and kill him with this clicker. Number 3, It's a Small World. It's a Small World was created. Oh, thank you. You remembered. I appreciate that. It's a Small World was created for the 1964-65 World's Fair, brought home to Disneyland in the summer of 1966. Today, there is not a Disney park anywhere in the world that doesn't have a version of It's a Small World. As a result, the song that accompanies this attraction, well, it is the most played song in music history. But now, no worries. Aside from the history of Disneyland, I also teach American government, so I'm familiar with the constitutional prohibition against cruel and unusual punishment. We are not singing It's a Small World today. Number 2, Space Mountain. Space Mountain was envisioned by Walt Disney himself. It started showing up on park maps as early as 1968. But unfortunately, technology did not exist in the 1960s. Trust me, I was there. Technology did not exist in the 1960s that would allow for multiple roller coaster cars on the same track at the same time in the dark. And so we wouldn't get our first Space Mountain until it opened here at Walt Disney World in January 1975. Disneyland would get its version, the better version, in May 1977. On hand that morning to take the first ride on Disneyland Space Mountain were 6 of the original 7 Mercury astronauts. Number 1. Yo-ho, yo-ho. Nobody sang. We can do better. So here's the deal. We can go back and sing It's a Small World, or I can give you another shot at Pirates. Pirates, right? Let's try that again. Yo-ho, yo-ho. Pirates of the Caribbean was originally under construction as a rather pedestrian walk-through wax museum. But in 1966, when they brought home It's a Small World, they also brought home the boat ride technology, converting Pirates of the Caribbean into the iconic boat ride we all know and love today. Pirates is also famous for being the last attraction Walt Disney personally worked on. Walt died of lung cancer in December 1966. Pirates opened 3 months later. Well, just like you, I too have a favorite Disney park attraction, and it's not as charming as It's a Small World. It's not as thrilling as Space Mountain. It's not as iconic as Pirates of the Caribbean. No, my favorite attraction in any Disney park is a mere park bench. Every attraction tells a story. Here's the story behind this park bench. In the 1940s, Walt Disney, he is a Hollywood movie mogul, a household name. But more importantly, gentlemen, he is the father to two young girls, Diane and Sharon. Every Saturday afternoon was Daddy's Day. And their favorite place to go was a little merry-go-round in nearby Griffith Park. This morning, if you're a mom, a dad, a grandma, or a grandpa, you already know this. When you put a small child on a merry-go-round, do they ever want to ride it just once? Why, no, they want to ride it again. And again. And again. And one Saturday afternoon, while Diane and Sharon are spinning on their merry-go-round, Walt Disney, he is sitting on this bench. And he has an idea. A crazy thought. Walt Disney sitting on this bench, he begins to dream. He begins to dream of a place where parents and children can have fun together. And so it was in that moment on this bench that the dream of Disneyland was born. And it's not just Walt. You have ideas. Game-changing, life-changing, world-changing ideas each and every day. I met Josh last night in the elevator. We spoke for a few moments. It didn't take long to figure out that Josh has crazy thoughts. Please tell me that everyone in this room still dreams. I mean, what's the point in going tonight to Walt Disney World, the place where dreams come true, if you don't have any? But the challenge is how do you turn those ideas? How do you turn those crazy thoughts? How do you turn those dreams into reality? Well, we start by remembering Walt's words. All of our dreams can come true if we have the courage to pursue them. And that's our second choice this morning. Use your courage to confront conflict. This morning, none of you lack for ideas. None of us lack for crazy thoughts. Again, we all still dream. But what we need is what every hero needs. Courage. And I know, well, because just like you, I've been there. When my wife, Nikki, and I first moved to Southern California in 2011, we were excited to become local annual pass holders and get to go to Disneyland. But what we didn't know was that, like Diane and Sharon spinning on their merry-go-round, Nikki and I, we would keep going back to the park again and again and again to the tune of well over 500 times in the last 8 years. And on one of those visits, I had an idea about how to do my job better. On one of those visits, I had a crazy thought about my role and my responsibility as Dean of Student Success, responsible for students and retention and graduation rates. Somewhere along the way, I began to dream of taking leadership and success principles and marrying them to the story and the magic of the Magic Kingdom. Why there should be a class, a college course on the history of Disneyland. And right now, some of you are thinking, really? Like seriously, a college course on the history of an amusement park? But others of you are thinking, wow, where was that class when I was in college? All of our dreams can come true if we have the courage to pursue them. I lacked courage because I didn't want to be the university professor who lost his job for pitching such a Mickey Mouse idea. And so I did with my idea, I did with my dream, what I never want to see any of you do with yours. Nothing. But that doesn't mean our dreams let us go, does it? No, you see, our dreams, they're like the hitchhiking ghost in the Haunted Mansion. They will follow you home. They wake us up in the middle of the night. They distract us in the middle of the day. At least my dream did. And then everything changed on the afternoon of May 6, 2013 at 5:05 p.m. I was leaving the university campus, distracted, thinking, dreaming of a college course on the history of Disneyland, of which I had done nothing. And as I accelerated onto the freeway, all of a sudden I heard this horrific noise. I looked in my rearview mirror, saw my iPhone doing cartwheels down the shoulder of the freeway. Ah! I raced back. But long before I found my iPhone, I first found something else that looked painfully familiar. Because in my distracted thinking, in my distracted dreaming, I had not only left my iPhone on the roof of the car, I had left my iPad as well. RTA Connect, I stood there that day with $1,000 in shattered electronics, and I knew I couldn't stand it anymore. I was done. Done standing on the sidelines of my life. Done only ever thinking about my dream, but never taking action. I was done watching all of those cars pass by and suddenly knowing, those aren't just cars, that is my life. I was done. And so I made a decision. Every dream requires a decision. You want to make a positive impact this morning? Make a different decision. My decision was this. There was never going to be another day that I didn't work on my dream, creating a college course on the history of Disneyland. I made an immediate appointment with my boss, pitched my Mickey Mouse idea, and there I learned 30 years ago when he was a student at USC, he had worked as a cast member at Disneyland. He loved the idea. And so because I stopped thinking and started taking action, for the next year, I got to work on my dream. Syllabus, curriculum, textbooks, guest lectures, field trips. We had it all laid out. We had it all lined up in exactly 1 year to the day. 365 days after running over my electronics on a California freeway, I gave the first lecture in my dream class, The History of Disneyland. Guess what? It was awesome! I have never seen students so excited, so engaged to be taking a general education history class. Don't you see? Your dreams matter. And not just to you. But here's my concern this morning. Some of you today, you're still standing on the sidelines. You've got that idea, that crazy thought. You're still dreaming, but there's no positive impact because you're not doing anything about them. So here's what I want you to do. Everybody pull out your cell phone. I know you have it. you're not in trouble with the professor because you brought your cell phone to class. Pull out your cell phone, hold it up, and let me ask you this question. What's it going to take? What's it going to take for you to board the RTA train? What's it going to take for you to go all in on your customers, on your clients, on your community? What's it going to take for you to make a positive impact and a positive difference both personally and professionally? And here's the deal that I'm willing to make with you. If you think it will help, after the keynote this morning, I will meet you outside in the parking lot and run over your cell phone for free. Because we need you to board the train. It's past time for you to go all in. $40, a single suitcase, and a one-way ticket. What will you decide? Question for you. I want you to raise your hand this morning if you love stories. Of course you do. Loving stories is what it means to be human. Stories are why we read books. Stories are why we go to the movies. It is story that keeps bringing us back to the Disney parks again and again and again. We love stories. But every great story requires conflict. Let's be honest for just a moment this morning. As much as we love stories, most of us, we want nothing to do with conflict. RTA Connect, if you remember anything out of my presentation, please remember this. Today, what's keeping you from what you want? What's keeping you from your idea? What's keeping you from your dream? It's not a lack of ability. Josh wouldn't have hired you if you couldn't do it. And it's not a lack of time. It's not even a lack of money. No, what keeps us from living our own great story is an unwillingness to embrace conflict. Because you know it's going to be difficult. And that's why we need heroes. Heroes who are willing to step up. Heroes who are willing to take the lead. Heroes who are willing to sharpen their swords, sitting out on the path, knowing that somewhere along the way, you are going to have to slay a few dragons or two. And that's okay. Always remember, the bigger your dragon, the better your story. The bigger your dragon, the better your story. And I'll give you an example. The day after I gave the first lecture in my dream class, History of Disneyland, the very next day I faced the greatest conflict of my life. I was diagnosed with a brain tumor. And the neurosurgeon at downtown Cedars-Sinai in Los Angeles said to me, Jeff, it's life-threatening. Today's Friday. I need you back here on Tuesday for brain surgery. This thing's got to come out. And oh, by the way, even if it is not cancerous, because of the invasiveness of the surgery, you're going to be out of work anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks. 6 to 8 weeks. Wow. I mean, 6 to 8 weeks means no class. 6 to 8 weeks means the history of Disneyland would be wiped from the university schedule, never to be seen or heard from again. Why 6 to 8 weeks means my dream dies. And then I remembered that afternoon on the side of the freeway when I had made my decision, when I boarded the train, when I went all in, $40, a single suitcase, and a one-way ticket, I looked the neurosurgeon in the eye and I said, sorry, doc, Tuesday, not going to happen. And he wanted to know, well, Jeff, what What are you doing on Tuesday that's so important, so significant, that you're willing to put off brain surgery and risk your life? And I said to him, well, I'm a university professor. I have class. And he wanted to know, well, Jeff, what class are you teaching? That, again, so important, so significant, that you're willing to put off brain surgery and risk your life. Now, to this day, I don't know if he was expecting organic chemistry, maybe molecular biology. But when I said to him, history of Disneyland, oh, I thought he was going to kill me before the tumor ever had a chance. But that's when I knew. More than an idea, more than a crazy thought, folks, even more than a dream. This has become my life's passion. And here's why. Every year, in the United States alone, every year, 33 million people go to either Disneyland or the Magic Kingdom here at Walt Disney World. And I don't see the parks as an escape. I see them as an example. I don't see Disney as the place where dreams come true. I see it as the place showing you how to get what you want and how to make your own dreams come true. And so that's my message, my mission, my passion, one for which I was willing to risk my life. Earlier this morning, Josh was talking to you not just about what you do or how you do it. He was talking to you about why. And so I think you need to ask yourself this morning, why do you do what you do? What's your message? What's your mission? And is your why so passionate that you're willing to take risk? Risk on behalf of your customers, your clients, your community, so that you can get from where you are to where you know that you and they need to be. Our third choice this morning is that regardless of your role, your responsibility in this organization, each and every one of us must step up and take the lead. This is actually a lesson from my History of Disneyland class. I'm excited to share it with you this morning. When you go to the Magic Kingdom, when you step onto Main Street, USA, you're not just stepping onto a street. You're stepping into a story where you're not just a passive spectator, but an active participant in your own great story. And when Disneyland opened, July 17th, 1955, the best stories that the park told were found in the original Fantasyland dark rides. Come see us in California, because these are all still there. Snow White's Scary Adventures, Peter Pan's Flight, Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. Walt constructed these attractions not to retell the entire story. They're not book reports. No, he constructed these attractions to evoke the emotion we associate with story. Snow White's Scary Adventures is all about fear and danger, which is why it freaked you out when you wrote it at the age of 6. Peter Pan's Flight, my wife's favorite, is awe and wonder. Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, how many of you have been on Mr. Toad? Mr. Toad is humor and comedy in a 1960s psychedelic kind of way. And yet in 1955, when guests went to Disneyland, and as much as we loved the park and loved these stories and these attractions, guests were also very confused, and here's why. People went looking for Snow White when they wrote Snow White. They were looking for Peter Pan. Everybody wanted to see Mr. Toad, and they weren't there. Walt kept the heroes, the lead characters, out of those stories and out of those attractions because, again, you're not a passive spectator. You're an active participant. When you ride Snow White, you get to be Snow White. You're Peter Pan. We all get to be Mr. Toad. How cool is that? And nobody got it. In fact, for the next 30 years, every day at City Hall on Main Street, people would line up and do what human beings do best. Whine, moan, and complain. I just wrote Snow White. Did you know? She's not there. I just wrote Peter Pan 3 times in a row, and you know how long that line is. I can't find Peter Pan. Where is Mr. Toad? And so in 1983, when they renovated Fantasyland in California, to assuage those concerns, to assuage those endless complaints, they put the heroes, the lead characters, into those stories, into those attractions for the first time, which is great for fixing Fantasyland. But here's the challenge. It does nothing for you. Nothing for your idea, for your crazy thought, nothing for your team, nothing for your dream, nothing for your business, for your customers, for your clients, or for your community. And so one of my challenges to you this morning is to stop. Stop looking for a hero. I want to challenge you to find your way out of Fantasyland and know, guess what? That idea of yours, that goal, that crazy thought, that dream, nobody's coming. It's up to you. You know what you want to do. You know what you need to do. So do it. Because if not you, then who? And if not right now, when? Last August, I was speaking at a school district kickoff breakfast, and a teacher who's been working there for the last 3 decades shared with me the following text message that he had, ironically enough, received just a few days earlier from a student a dozen years prior. Listen to what it says. Hi, Mr. Wilder. I've been thinking back on a journal assignment you had us write way back in the 2nd grade. You challenged us to write about what we wanted to do, who we wanted to be when we grew up. And I wrote about wanting to work at Disneyland and how it was my dream to be Mickey Mouse. You left a comment in my journal telling me that if that's my dream, then I should own it. I should go for it. Well, we're a dozen years down the road now, and I am proud to tell you that I am Mickey Mouse at Disneyland. Thank you for your encouragement to do something I have always wanted to do since I was 7 years old. Now here's the deal. We can't all this morning be Mickey Mouse. But guess what we can be? Mr. Wilder. By providing that mentoring, that motivation, that inspiration, that encouragement to all of our team, encouraging them to dream. Step up this morning. Make the choice to take the lead. Now, speaking of being a hero, how many of you would love to have some sort of superhero power? Raise your hand if you're in on getting a superhero power this morning. Of course you are. And guess what? You already have one. It's your mind. It's your ability to come up with those ideas, to think crazy thoughts. It's your ability to dream. And then to make the decision to go all in, to board the train. $40, single suitcase, and a one-way ticket. How did Abraham Lincoln get Mickey Mouse ears? That's amazing. Abraham Lincoln was Walt Disney's favorite president. And it was Abraham Lincoln who once said, you live the life you think about. Think about that for just a moment. RTA Connect, you live the life you think about. And this morning, between where you are and where you want to be, this morning between where you are and your goal, your dream, your success, along that journey, along that path, you're going to have to let it go. And no, we're not singing that song either. You're going to have to let go of limited beliefs. And that's our 4th choice. To let go of limited beliefs, to let go of limited thinking. Thoughts that say, I'm too young, or I'm too old. Thoughts that say, I always, I never. thoughts that say I can't, or better yet, I won't. And how do I know that this room of individuals needs to let go of their own limited thinking? It's because even Walt Disney, the king of imagination, even Walt Disney had to let go of his own limited beliefs a time or two. A couple of examples. First, after the success of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Walt went on record saying, "I'll never do anything as good as Snow White." In fact, he believed that so solidly that he almost stopped. He almost stopped making movies. Can you imagine? Can you imagine a world without Dumbo? Without Pinocchio? A world without Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty? A world without Mary Poppins? I don't want to imagine that world because I don't want to live in a world limited by limited beliefs. And then after the instant and overnight success of Disneyland, cities around the country, countries around the world, they kept calling. They were all clamoring. They wanted their own Disneyland. And each and every time, Walt's response was always the same. No, there will never be another Disneyland. There will never be another Disneyland. Nope, there will never be another Disneyland. Sorry, guys, not going to happen. There will never be another Disneyland. There will never be another Disneyland. This morning in Central Florida, right here in Orlando, Walt Disney World at 27,440 acres is 150 times the size of Disneyland. It is the most popular vacation destination on the planet and our nation's largest single-site employer, none of which would have been possible if Walt had not let go of the limiting belief there will never be another Disneyland. So what's holding you back? What is your limiting belief this morning? And while you reflect on that, I want to introduce you to Joe Rohde. Joe Rohde is a lead Disney Imagineer. If you've been to Animal Kingdom's Pandora World, Joe Rohde was the lead designer of that amazing new land. This is what Joe Rohde tells us. What you think is impossible is really an opinion, not a fact. An opinion, not a fact. And Rohde is right. Here's how I know. I shared with you the story of my first visit to Disneyland, but my first visit to a Disney park actually took place right here at Walt Disney World in August of 1974. There I am with my family of 6. Some of you can do math, and you're like, there's only 3 people in the photo. You have to remember, it's 1974. It took 3 other people to take a selfie. What I remember most about this visit, is it Main Street USA? Is it Pirates of the Caribbean? What I remember most is going to the transportation and ticket system and riding the highway in the sky, the monorail to the Magic Kingdom, going through the Contemporary Resort. Now, in 1974, when you're 10 years old and you're on a monorail on your way to the Magic Kingdom, going through a hotel, that is unbelievable, fantastic, futuristic, space-age stuff. And when we stopped in that hotel and I looked out, my jaw dropped. Whoa, I said to my mom and dad, what is this? They responded with words that I never forgot. They said to me, Jeff, it doesn't matter what this is, because this, well, it's not for us. Well, it's not for us meant we couldn't afford it. It's not for us meant me and our family of 6. We spent the next 3 nights at the Days in Kissimmee. It's not for us meant for the next 42 years. I lost track of the number of times we went to Walt Disney World, the number of times I rode the monorail on my way to the Magic Kingdom. I lost track of all of the other Walt Disney World resort and hotels that I stepped into, but never, not once, the Contemporary, because I knew at the ripe old age of 10, it's not for us. And then last summer, my wife Nikki and me, we were here on vacation, on the monorail, going to the Magic Kingdom, stopped inside the Contemporary, and I very casually mentioned to her, "Hey, babe, I've never actually been inside of here." "What? You're Dr. Disney. This is a flagship Walt Disney World hotel. How have you never been inside?" And I responded with words that seemed really obvious to me. "Well, it's not for us." "Jeff, what does that mean? Of course it's for us. We can have breakfast. We can have lunch. We can have dinner. I'm pretty sure we could even stay here if we wanted." "Babe, you don't understand. It's not for us." And so when we returned here in November, after 42 years, and because of the encouragement of my wife, when we got on the monorail on our way to the Magic Kingdom and stopped at the Contemporary Resort, for the first time ever, I stepped off and went inside. In fact, we took the elevator up to the California Grill, and that's where we celebrated Thanksgiving dinner. And here's my question. How was that possible? Thank you. How was that possible? Because it's not for us, was an opinion, not a fact. RTA Connect, let go of your limiting beliefs. Our fifth and final choice this morning is to dismiss your doubters. How many of you've got critics, you've got naysayers, you've got doubters. They don't believe in your ideas, your crazy thoughts. They don't believe in you and your dream. Who's with me this morning? I want you to know, good news, you're not alone. When Walt came home on that Saturday afternoon, he was excited. He said to his wife, Lily, "Honey, we're going to build an amusement park." And Lily looked at Walt and said, "Oh, Walt, no. An amusement park? Why, those places are filthy." That's the point. Mine? Oh, mine will be clean. Ask anyone who was there in 1955. This is what they will tell you. They had never stepped into a public space so impeccably clean. A promise to his wife, Lily, who doubted Walt's dream, Disneyland. On Monday, Walt walks into the studio. He's still excited. He sees his older brother, Roy, his lifelong business partner. "Roy, we're going to build an amusement park." Roy looked at his little brother and said, "Walt, you've had some crazy ideas in your day, but I'll tell you what, we are not building an amusement park." Well, fast forward to 1954. Guess what Walt Disney is doing? He's building an amusement park because, it's kind of fun to do the impossible. And one afternoon, he calls up his best friend, Art Linkletter. Art Linkletter would go on to serve as the master of ceremonies for the live ABC television broadcast on July 17th, 1955, viewed by some 90 million Americans that day. But in 1954, Art Linkletter, he's never even been to Anaheim. Walt calls him up. "Art, I'm building my amusement park in Anaheim. I'm really excited about it. I want to pick you up. I want to show you what we're up to." And so the two men drove the 33 miles south, and then Art Linkletter, who lived until 1998, Art Linkletter would spend the rest of his life telling this one story. We pulled into what was still obviously an orange grove with some walnut trees, bulldozers, and endless piles of dirt. And the second the car stopped, Walt jumped out. I'd never seen my friend so excited, so animated. And immediately, he began to show me where the railroad was going to run around the perimeter of that park, and how Main Street USA was going to go right down the center, and where the Jungle Cruise was going to meander in Adventureland, and how Dumbo the Flying Elephant was going to soar over this place he called Fantasyland. And the entire time I'm standing there in that orange grove with the walnut trees, bulldozers, and all of those piles of dirt. And all I can think is, whew, my poor, delusional friend. He's going to build an amusement park way out here in Anaheim? He'll go bankrupt. Don't you see, my friends? No one can believe in you and your world-changing ideas. No one can believe in you and your crazy thoughts. No one, to include your own wife, your own brother, your own best friend. No one can believe in you and your dream more than you. I close with this. Let's go back to Disneyland one last time, only now it's Monday, July 18th. This is the day Walt is most excited about. July 17th, that was the press and the media, celebrities and VIPs. July 18th, that's the day the park was going to open to the general public. People just like you and me, the folks Walt built Disneyland for. Walt is also excited because it's the first time people were actually going to spend money to get into Disneyland, money that Walt desperately needed. The original budget for his dream was $3.5 to $4 million. By the time Walt threw open the gates, he had spent well over $17 million. You thought you had budget problems this morning. But on that Monday morning, the first person to spend the first dollar to purchase the first ticket to get into Disneyland, it was Walt's older brother, Roy. We are not building an amusement park. RTA Connect, professionally, personally, what are you not doing? You have your ideas, your crazy thoughts, you have your dreams, but if you want them to make a positive impact, you're going to have to do something about them. I hope you have a great conference. Enjoy Epcot tonight. And somewhere along the way, I want you to stop for just a moment and think about Walt's bench and ask yourself this question. What if? What if Walt Disney doesn't believe in his idea? What if Walt doesn't believe in his dream? What if Walt never gets up off of that park bench? What would Anaheim, California look like this morning? Would any of us be here in Orlando today? What would the world look like? You see, in 1955, we needed Walt Disney because we needed the positive impact of Disneyland. And in 2019, guess what? We need you. We need your ideas, your crazy thoughts. We need you and your dreams. And most importantly, we need you to get up off of your park bench. And once you make that decision to go all in, $40, a single suitcase, and a one-way ticket. Once you keep making those 5 life-changing choices, that no matter what, you're going to keep moving forward. You're going to use courage to confront conflict. Each and every day, regardless of your role, regardless of your responsibility, you know what needs to be done. You're going to do it because you're going to take the lead. Once you choose to let go of your own limiting beliefs and to dismiss your doubters, once you make that decision and start making those choices, guess what? You're going to discover that even in 2019, guess what? Dreams, they still come true. Because dreams, they're not just for Walt Disney. And they don't only come true at a place called Disneyland. Thank you.